There was a time, long ago, when evil men with greed in their hearts would lay siege to the king that possessed the ancient treasures of the Dark Ages. But the king was in league with creatures of magic, forest spirits, leprechauns. These guardians summoned from the earth to protect the gold from falling into the hands of evil men, of wicked men. The legend of their ferocity spread through the land, and all would know not to trifle with these creatures. The king's reign would come to an end, and the leprechauns would find their home again, back in Mother Nature's embrace. Except for the myth of the one that did not go back.
Welcome to Film Strip. I'm Jay.
And I'm Brian.
And this is our review of Leprechaun Back to the Hood, starring Warwick Davis, Tangi Miller, Laz Alonso, and Paige Kennedy, directed by Stephen Aramlui, straight to video in December 2013, Brian, because nothing says Christmas like a friggin' leprechaun, baby.
Yeah.
So we have finally made it here, my ninja. We are back to the hood.
We are back to the hood, number 6 in the series. Can you believe they made 6 of these things? Come on.
Really? And, I mean, it survived to the 6th one is the amazing thing, man. I really don't know how.
I'm not sure either. I can't imagine that after 3, 4, and 5, anyone said it's a good idea to make another one. They can't have been making money on these things.
That's what I've got to know, and there's no information about it out there at all, and I don't know why they keep going. I do believe that Leprechaun in the Hood was a video hit. Like that did something.
It's the only reason that they would ever even think of doing another one, I guess.
I would think so. And but though Hollywood is rife for this, man. Like they're doing a remake in production as we record this. Leprechaun Origins.
But you got to put into context that it's the WWE who's doing it, right? And they have this midget wrestler named Hornswoggle as part of their company, so they're probably just trying to find something for him to do. And what else are you going to do? A remake of Willow? Probably not.
Ridley Scott will never allow that to happen. But yeah, and for good reason. Maybe you could redo Time Bandits. I don't know. But yeah, we're back, and it's the last one with Warwick Davis, though. He will not be a part of Origins from everything I've read.
Not that we know of, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Is it? He has been the continued piece of all of this. Have we had one damn character besides him come back?
No.
That is amazing in a 6-part series that no one made another run through this.
You know, it really is, but it just shows you what a standalone every film is in this series. None of them have. Well, I guess you can think of a couple of them that have a few ties back to the other thing. The medallion is one tie that they brought back in it, but they don't really, they're not tied to each other than a brief mention in 1 or 2 films.
I think you brought up a good point there. And if you're a continuity person, and I kind of am, this will drive you insane. There's no way to connect the dots between these. I think someone online has, and it's quite humorous to try to see them do it. But, there is no timeline. Yeah. It's just they just all exist, and they just exist at the same time. It's parallel dimensions all at once, man.
And even at that too is that they don't exist in the same time, right? Some of them are years ahead of where the other one was, or it's back in time, or if you ever look at a continuity timeline of this series, they're all over the place. You have no clue which ones follows what.
Oh, I agree. I mean, there's no telling where Leprechaun 6 is supposed to have taken place. Because wasn't last week supposed to have been a prequel to some of the other ones or something like that? I don't know.
Who knows?
At least the third one in Vegas.
Well, the space one, right? That one's supposed to be way in the future, right? Because it looked very futuristic.
I think we can just say, Brian, when a series goes to space, that's usually it, right? Like there's nowhere else to go.
Unless it started there.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, but look, I mean, in other series, other things I've reviewed, anytime they go to space and they didn't begin there, like you said, it's never a good sign. Like, Critters 4 comes to mind, and Jason X, which is fun, but is really stupid. And I think there was a Hellraiser one that did in space. I haven't seen that, but I mean, I understand that wasn't exactly a shining moment in the history. I mean, it's when you go to space, you're out of luck. But that we're talking about movies that were 2 movies ago. We're back in the hood, man. And the thing I'm most surprised about here is it's not a sequel to In the Hood.
Right.
Like that's amazing.
It's not even the same hood.
No, is it? Right. Yeah, that's what I wondered. Is it across the other side of the tracks or what?
I don't know. Maybe the first one was in Detroit and this one's in Chicago. Who knows?
Because the rap game in Detroit, baby. That's what's happening.
Detroit's got the worst hood ever, and Eminem comes from the rap hood in Detroit. So
he does. I don't think Ice-T came out of that, but okay. I'm with you. Mac Daddy Onassis wasn't cleaning it up in D-Town.
God, I can't believe you remember Mac Daddy Onassis.
I remember lots of things. I remember old Maury from the ripoff Haunted Tour and all kinds of random. These movies have seeped their way into my brain in ways that I will never be able to excise. It's sad.
Oh. All right. Well, we should get into this, Jay. So let's get a plot summary on what happens in Leprechaun. I guess we call it 6, Back to the Hood. We open with an animation that explains the origins of the leprechaun and then flash to modern day where he battles with a priest who is able to send him back to hell before collapsing and dying. When we meet a group of inner city friends...
Hold on. He battles a priest.
Well,
okay,
I guess he's evil, right? We meet a group of inner city friends, Emily, Rory, and Jamie, who go
because
from
nothing
rags
says inner city like Emily, Rory, and Jamie. Oh my God.
They go from rags to riches when they stumble upon some treasures, but they're warned by a psychic to resist the wealth because of the dangers that it brings. Of course, the little green man wants it back, and he goes about dispensing with the unsuspecting pals one by one. The remaining friends go back to see the psychic, who tells them the origins of the leprechaun, like we learned in the original animation. We had to rehash that, right? And that he can be only killed by his gold or a 4-leaf clover. Hey, look at that. Yeah. Jamie produces a 4-leaf clover found in a bag of weed that he bought earlier, and Rory grinds it up and puts it in the tips of each bullet of his gun. The leprechaun eventually shows up and Rory starts shooting him, but after the 4th shot, his gun jams. This leads to a back and forth fight with the little green monster until Emily throws his gold into a furnace, which sets the leprechaun on fire, because he goes after it, of course. This doesn't stop him, though, as he has Emily dangling off a rooftop. Rory gets his gun working and blasts the leprechaun, rescues Emily, and she knocks the pry into a pool of wet cement, trapping him because it dries that fast once you hit it with a person, I guess. And the film shows the friends enjoying some good times before cutting to an animation showing the leprechaun digging himself out of the ground as the credits roll, setting up a sequel that thankfully never was made.
Yeah, to never be continued. So, I mean... Wow.
Yeah.
I want to throw out the one piece of trivia here that I do know about this. Originally, this was going to be set on a tropical island with a bunch of, bikini-clad teens. I think that's thus the names Emily, Rory, and Jamie, which I so called out as not inner city. Yeah. And I think I'm right. But then they decided, I guess for reasons because the last one was somewhat successful, let's go back to the hood, though, as you've called out, not the same hood.
Yeah, no, totally different hood. We don't have any of the same characters that we saw. I mean, wouldn't it have been nice to find out what happened to Postmaster P?
Well, yeah, or maybe one of the hoes that was dancing at the end or something.
Right. Maybe we see how rich Leprechaun became on Postmaster P,
well,
right?
Yeah, why couldn't Lisa or one of these other, Yolanda, one of these people been one of those,
Well, and didn't we set it up that he was controlling Postmaster P's career at the end of that one?
Right, yeah, Leprechaun was in the rap game now. I mean, that's how he's making ends.
He was a kingpin of rap.
Right, he was making ends. He didn't need to be snapping up the gold, but,
Well... It's what it is. And really the only thing that comes from that Leprechaun in the Hood film that carries over into this one is the fact that Leprechaun really likes weed.
Yeah, that is really the end of it. Yeah, and boy, does weed ever play a part in this film? I thought it was heavy last time because it was constant. But I mean, you called it out. There's a character that finds a 4-leaf clover in a bag of weed. There's people smoking weed. A guy gets killed with a bong. There's weed everywhere.
We know that 4-leaf or that clover patches grow where weed grows, right? I mean, it's obvious. So if you're harvesting the weed, you gotta harvest the clovers.
If you remember the fat kid from the first one? All you gotta do is believe. And there you go.
Poor Ollie.
Poor old Ollie. You remember Ollie? Didn't you bang on me for remembering the other?
How can you forget Ollie?
That seems like
and Kevin
so
Bacon
long ago. That felt like. Let's just stop for a minute and think here. Think how far we've come since that first film. All the places we've been.
Do you remember how we crapped on that film?
Oh, yeah.
Boy, were we in for some awesomeness after that. That's like cinematic gold compared to what we've watched since.
It is definitely, and everything else is repoed by your Diamond Grill at the mall gold. I mean, it's bad. I've known horror series, or series just in general, that just get progressively worse as they go along. I mean, it happens. It's the repetition factor, right? But I've never seen one that like actively got worse every installment. Like it reinvents itself to even worse ideas.
Yeah. Every
time. But I'll say this right now. One thing that is markedly different in this one and the last 4 that we've seen is I actually like some of the actors here. I like some of the characters. I mean, they're funny. I think they know they're in a stupid film, but they're believable to me. I kind of dug them.
Yeah, no, the difference also in this one is that the acting is good. I mean, comparatively speaking, right? It's not spectacular. I don't think any of these people ever show up in anything major ever again, but it's compared to what we've seen in the last 5 or 4, actually. The first one had the Aniston, who's decent at least, but it's pretty crappy acting in all those. And this one, it seems like you're watching a real movie. Like someone actually took time to write dialogue for once. And also, this has gotten rid of a lot of the campy and stupid humor that they've used in the last 4 Leprechauns and replaced it with more of a horror and gore feel.
Yeah, it's much more sinister. We're going to talk about some of the kills and the maimings and things through this, but I noticed that too, Brian. You're right. There's no more one-liners, and like part of me was missing those, but then part of me was sort of glad they were done with that.
Oh, yeah, I think I was completely glad they were done with that. I mean, I did get a kick out of a few of them, and as we talked about in the last podcast, but to not have that interrupt what could be a okay flow of a movie was kind of nice. Because let's face it, this one actually had a flow to it, and it made sense.
Yeah, oddly enough, as stupid as it sounds, and it is a pretty stupid little story, it's really easy to follow, and it's kind of fun. Now, I will say the third act, the climax, goes on and on and on. But the leading up to it was at least worth it in some way. I kind of liked most of what I was getting here. And I'll tell you, I think the thing that hooked me right out of the gate was this little animation, this prologue that's... you have the Esmeralda character that we'll meet later as the psychic that does this voiceover here about the origin of leprechauns, that they were summoned by kings to protect the gold, and after the king, all the leprechauns were sent back to where they came from, except for one. And through the ages, he's even more and more corrupted about the gold that he still guards and stuff. And I don't know, what did you make of the, I guess, what is it, 3rd or 4th different origin story we had here?
And not the last one, apparently, but yes.
Yeah.
I liked it, too. I thought it was kind of a neat way to actually set things up, and it just shows you that you don't need to watch any of the other Leprechaun movies at all to just take this one and watch it, because it tells you the origin of the leprechaun, why he's there, and what he's doing, and then gives you a story to go with it. So yeah, no, I thought it was cool. I like that they gave you that kind of intro and built it up with that as the credits were going. I thought that was a real neat way to do it, and it really does set you up. If you're not one who's seen any of the leprechauns in the past, you can pick this up and not have to worry about that.
Yeah, I
Not
think
that you would anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we made it clear anyway. None of these connect, so, whatever. You don't need any of them to go forward to the next one. There is no continuity. But I do like the fact that they at least bother to go through with that again. And we don't have anything like, he's got to marry some chick that sneezes 3 times or, something like that. Like, at least we're not back to that crap, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least it's him. And what we find here in this opening battle, which I did crack up at, because it sounded like, I don't know, the way that plot summary's written, it's like it's the beginning of The Exorcist or something. When you got this priest who we will learn has stolen this gold and he's using it to build a youth center, right? That's the construction site that apparently is still being built by the time the rest of the movie takes place. But he's using that gold to fund that project, and the priest here has a 4-leaf clover and a bottle of holy water that he's throwing at the leprechaun as the leprechaun slashes at him.
Yeah. Now, we're meant to believe that after the priest dies, right? That it's a year later that they come back. Is that correct? I just want to set the time frame.
They do the year forward or whatever. Okay, yeah, but I'm going, man, that's a slow building project. So.
Right. And the 4-leaf clover dipped holy water because that was awesome. I don't know. I thought it was a real weird kind of way to start it but it was done well enough where you were kind of intrigued at what was going on. But then they kind of did nothing with it after that. I don't know. It just the priest goes after this leprechaun or fights with the leprechaun who's trying to get his gold back. He's building this youth center, and they don't really explain that until the flash forward. But after that, it's just kind of like that was just an intro and never used again, right?
Well, they had to have some way to bury the leprechaun there so that when these people later find the gold at the site of that youth center, that how did it get there? How did he get there? All that stuff. That's the old setup here.
Yeah.
The thing I thought was different this time is that we've never seen the leprechaun like dragged back into hell. Like he got stabbed with wrought iron. That was bad once.
Yeah.
And he got melted by a flamethrower that got a hold of his gold that one time. And then he got disembodied and flipped off the universe in space. And then last time he was just rapping with some hoes at the club. So. And the first time he got shot with a 4-leaf clover and some gum, right? And melted
then blown
into
up, right?
Well, yeah. So we've seen him die in a lot of ways, and I've never seen like.
But he never died.
Well, we've seen him go down in a lot of different ways, but I've never seen the Buffy season 1 vampire hands come up out of the ground and drag him below. I did not.
What was that? Now, was that supposed to be the other leprechauns finally getting a hold of him and dragging him where he's supposed to be? Or they never really explained what the hell.
I don't. Yeah, they don't. It is a grand non-explanation.
Apparently, holy water and clovers can summon demons from the earth to trap someone. I don't know.
I've got to remember that the next time I'm angry in traffic. But
there you go. Right. Oh, you got to find a 4-leaf clover first, and
then I probably got to find somebody that'll put some holy water around it. I'm not even Catholic. I doubt that would even happen now. Yeah, but anyway, so point being, I did like that though. I mean, it's stupid, yeah, but I don't know. I thought it was cool. It's better than some of the other crap they've
absolutely
dispensed with him with. So
yeah. No, I agree with you there.
What does the priest die of? Is he die of a heart attack? I think
he had a heart attack, yeah. That's the way I took it.
Well, like, I read something online that says he died from injuries inflicted by the leprechaun. I'm like, I don't even think the leprechaun ever got a hold of him.
Maybe injuries he received before we saw him. I don't know. That's why you don't read what's online, man. Just making shit up.
Says a guy who hosts podcasts online.
I'm not writing anything.
Yeah, but you used to. So, but anyway, let me ask you this though. Like, we've seen the leprechaun throw magic at people a lot, right? Like every movie that's been
force lightning and
where's that? And that might come in useful in this fight, I would think.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, like we said, you throw everything in the past out because it doesn't matter unless you need it. I mean, the one movie he had a shillelagh that turned into a lightsaber, and another one he had force lightning. I mean, they must really like Star Wars, But
I think the people that made those certainly did. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think at one point he had eyes that he did the Superman eyes burning thing. I don't know. I guess they didn't have, maybe he doesn't have the power to do it right now. Maybe he needs a lot of his gold to do it. Who knows?
Do you know what I miss? I miss the fact that he could pedal really fast on a bicycle or something.
That little pedal car.
Yes, I miss that. I miss the pogo stick from hell. Like that was,
oh God, yes.
Yeah, that's what I miss. So, but I'm into this though. I'll say this: the first 5 minutes of this, I'm totally hooked, and I can't believe I'm saying that about a Leprechaun movie, but I was hooked. I was okay, this is kind of cool. I like this. And then they throw in a very likable character, Emily, who's really our protagonist here. Tangi Miller, she's the girl of the group here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's going with her friend to have their fortune told by the psychic Esmeralda, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, that doesn't really happen right away either, I don't think. I think what happens first is they're sitting there and we get introduced to Rory, who apparently is an ex of Emily's, which I don't think they ever really explained very well. And he's now a drug dealer. That's real good. And then he's getting into it with another group of drug dealers that roam the streets. So we get introduced to all them. And I don't think it is right away that they go to the psychic, because I think what they show is that she goes to her work, which is that salon, whatever they want to call it.
Barber shop from hell.
Yeah, and she's got to work with all the fat black people that live in her city, and they're all like, so stupid, whatever. And so they have to she has to massage their backs and do their nails and give them pedicures and all this crap, and she hates her job. And that's when I think they go to the psychic to find out if she'll ever have anything real worthwhile or get out of the city or something. I think that's why they end up going there.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I want to say this, going back to the drug dealer feud thing. Did you notice who one of the rival drug dealers was?
No, sir.
Cedric, the other lead guy, is played by Sticky Fingers. He played Blade when Blade was a television show, if you remember that short-lived TV show that he had. And he's been in a lot of other stuff, too. I mean, he was in a couple of cool movies that I dug, he was in Flight of the Phoenix, which was a bad remake, but was kind of a fun flick to watch. He's been on The Shield, and I really liked that show. He was a recurring character there. He's been on Law and Order a few times. I mean, he's made the rounds, but he's a rapper mainly. But I recognized him immediately. I was like, oh, so they put a real rapper in. And I want to tell you, part of me wishes that was Postmaster P. The Leprechaun had just turned him into a dope dealer,
Nice. I don't know anything about that guy. Unfortunately, none of those shows I've ever watched, so I have no frame of reference. But it's nice to know that at least someone from this movie made it out somewhere else.
He was something before he got in this, though. That's
wow! So they brought an established actor in.
Well, I wouldn't call him an established actor. I think he does parts. He's an established rapper, for sure.
Okay.
And probably the reason he would have been attracted to this.
Now, which one was he? Was he one of the side characters, or was he actually the guy who was all dopey and trying to be all tough?
Yeah, there's two rivals, right? There's Watson, and then there's Cedric, and he was Cedric, the one with wearing his hat backward and acting all
the one who acted all tough, but was really the second in command. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, cool.
Yeah. Good so I like that Emily though has standards. That she's like, I like you, Rory, but I'm not going to date you if you're going to sling in the hood. And
right.
I thought that was cool. I mean, look, that's a trope, right?
Well, the trope,
the trope go with what you can, and she's like, no, I'm better than that.
The trope for her is that she wants to get out of that city. She wants to have a better life, and the youth center was the key to getting that better life. And now that it's never being built again, she has no outlet. I guess she doesn't know how to leave the city.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard to leave where right? Familiarity can be as big a trap as anything to folks, right?
I suppose. If you have no skills either, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, it's not like she's, slinging it around in the NBA from Stanford or something right now. I mean, she's obviously just a working girl and trying to figure out, how she can make it in the world. And she goes to this psychic. What a lot of people go to psychics for is some glimmer of hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I love this psychic, man. She's such a trip because it's every trope you want in a psychic. It's even with music, it's got all that. And I'm getting flashbacks to Goldie Hawn, not Goldie Hawn, not even close. Whoopi Goldberg from Ghost. Remember her?
Okay, yep.
Is that same kind of character, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So she's the same kind of character where, you think most of what she does is just a sham, but every now and then she, clicks into something real. And as we'll turn around to find out later, she's very magical indeed.
Right.
She's like a Black Willow or something in there, the way she can fight. But she tells them, you're going to get this great wealth, but it comes with a great price and brings a terrible evil. You should let it go. And the one thing you cannot tell desperate young people is you're going to come across great wealth and then say anything after that because they're going to hear it.
Right. Yeah, they're not going to listen to you. They're going to be like, you should come across great wealth, blah, 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 blah. Right?
Exactly.
That's what they hear. And even if they did hear you, they don't care. They're just like, well, I'm going to have money.
Yeah, exactly. Like, whatever. I'm cool. I can take care of it. You know?
Well, and the funny thing is that the Emily may not have heard anything, but the other gal,
Lisa.
I'm sorry. Yeah. The other gal, Lisa, actually hears, and she kind of warns her when they actually find the gold that maybe we shouldn't do anything. What you talking about, girl?
Exactly. Yeah. So, well, and then let's talk about how they find the gold. They're at a barbecue at the abandoned youth center, right?
And right, because that's what you do is you hang out at an abandoned construction site and have a barbecue.
Well, it'd be as good a place as any in the city. It like they got a lot of parks, probably. Look, you got Rory there. You got their stoner friend Jamie, Paige Kennedy, who's the comic relief of all of this. Lisa and Emily. And Emily falls through a hole in this construction site. This is another reason you probably shouldn't party at construction sites, kids. If they're abandoned, they're not secure. So
and apparently it's just dirt above this building, right? Good Lord.
There's nothing. It is. I mean, there's syphilis down in that hole, Brian. There's problems. All right. There's evil Indian corpses. There's problems down there. But Emily goes on through, and they find the leprechaun's gold in a tunnel where it was apparently hidden by the priest. Which I'm like, okay, what kind of bank loan can you get? Where like, look, I got the gold. Where do you have it? Is it in First Savings and Loan? No, it's in the ground, bro.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how that wound up there, but
I would assume that he knew of the underground layer and just thought it was secure. Who knows?
I guess. I don't know. I mean, he didn't read the instructions that came with the gold.
Well, and maybe he didn't realize that he could fall through at any time.
Yeah. But thus they find the gold, and when as they have this discussion, like you said, about should we take it, should we not, they start splitting it up. They release the leprechaun by taking the gold. Huh?
Well, I guess. Well, maybe that's what happened. When he died, the same demons that drove the leprechaun on the ground got all the gold together and held it there, and it was his trap. I don't know. That's the first time that the gold has been a trap for the leprechaun in all this. Now, the clover was used once in the first one and a couple other things, but never the gold. And so that was kind of interesting.
I know. I mean, like the gold amulet, was what the dude brought him into Vegas with the pirate eye one-legged guy. And,
that guy was awesome, by the way.
Right. Yeah, I wish that guy had come back. Where the hell is that guy? Damn you, Leprechaun in the Hood. You were supposed to tell me who that was. But anyway.
and get his sweet Leprechaun program.
Oh, God, that computer program. So all these things that we recall, but I mean, really, I wanted to know who that guy was. But that amulet, but they've used that, and then, like I said, the 4-leaf clovers, and then he's either been disembodied in space or destroyed by wrought iron in a tree. So in little Mother Hubbard's shoe or something. So I don't know. I guess it's as good as the explanation. Anyway, we got to get him back in the film, right? Because we got to admit, I think this may be the least appearances of the Leprechaun in a Leprechaun film. He's barely in this thing.
That's true, and I think that's why it's actually compelling. I'm just going to throw that out there, because I really do think that's one of the only reasons.
Love for Warwick Davis, I see. Yeah.
Well, not that. It's just that the Leprechaun really, they've never used him very well for what he should be there for. He should be there to maim and kill people, and he basically walks around all the time and spouts off one-liners. Not having that in this one was a good thing, I thought. Yeah,
and let's talk about it. I mean, he gets to the killing pretty quick, right? He bumps into some guy that's got he's got a piece of the gold, and he's smoking the weed, and he shares the weed. God. Like, there's some more weed smoking for you, right?
Oh, big time, right? Yeah, this was a great scene, though. I really enjoyed it. So he found one piece of gold sitting there in his friend's room. I believe it was Jamie's house, was it not?
Yeah, it was over at Jamie's, yeah.
So he's in Jamie's bedroom. He finds the gold, and he stashes it, right? And he starts smoking out of a big-ass bong, like a huge bong. And in comes Leprechaun, and he's just like, he thinks he's stoned out of his mind seeing this guy. So he's like, hey, little dude, you want to smoke some weed? And Leprechaun's like, for me? Yeah, absolutely. And so he gets stoned and then finds out that he's got the gold piece and asks for it. And the guy says, no, that's my gold. You can't have it, right? He's like all defensive, like, that's mine. You can't have it. You can't
you
come
go
up
smoke
here
my
and
weed
smoke
and
my
try to
weed.
take my gold?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
He gets all defensive. So what does the leprechaun do? He takes the bond and shoves it straight in the guy's stomach, and that's the end of him.
I mean, but it was gory. Like, there was blood pouring. I was like, man, they put some dough into the gore effects again. I kind of like that. That
was good, yeah.
That was fun. I mean, it's pointless, and I don't care who that character was.
But that's what horror films are, a lot of pointless kills, right? And this was nice to see.
Yeah, some of them are. I always associate that kind of thing with like Friday the 13th. Just nameless naked teenager number 5 that Jason's going to cut in half. But I'm
Nightmare
cool with that.
on Elm Street, yeah.
Yeah, they've never done anything cool like that with Leprechaun, and so I'm cool for that. And I like that it's more violent. And I mean, it's a showstopper when he hits him with that thing because you know it's coming. But then it's like, and and he just dies this gory death. I don't know. I thought it was cool. Like I said,
I thought it was
really
good too. I really enjoyed that. And then the scene that follows is hilarious. So they have some good. They actually wrote good comedy in this one, right?
Yes.
Not this campy, crappy one-liner stuff. They actually made good comedy and physical comedy, right? So the leprechaun's downstairs, and here comes, I think it's Jamie actually, who comes in, and he's looking to build himself something to eat because all they've been doing all day is smoking weed. So there's hungry, right?
Munchies.
And Leprechaun's hungry too. So he's in there and he's looking in the fridge for something to eat, and then Jamie comes in and knocks the fridge door. So in goes the leprechaun into the fridge, and then he gets out of there, and Jamie comes back to the fridge and knocks him out with the fridge again. Oh, it's funny as heck, I thought.
Oh, I thought it was really funny. I mean, it's great. And then the next set of kills at the salon are even better, right?
Yeah.
I mean, breaks that woman's neck while he's giving her the fake massage and all that stuff. I don't know. I just thought it was cool. I was down with the way the leprechaun was doing the kills and trying to get at the friends. Yeah,
I was a little worried that the leprechaun was going to try and rape the old big lady.
Oh.
Because of the way he was acting. He's like, it's like, oh dear God, don't go there. And luckily they didn't. They had him fool around with her by walking on her back and giving her a massage, and then just kind of he slit her throat, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's grotesque again, more grossness, and that's what I like, I like how though he finally goes after Emily and she barely gets away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the meanwhile, Jamie's been arrested because there's a dude that got killed at his party. I'm like, that never happens in horror movies. There's like realistic cop work going on here.
I know, what the hell? They're doing their job. And we introduce it to these two cops, right? And they'll come into play in a little bit here as Jamie gets arrested and taken down to the station, and they're all like, oh, we'll get you out, no problem, right? Well, of course, they got all the money to get him out if they wanted to. Mm-hmm. But he ends up getting out. We never see how he gets out, but he's out. And they're all of a sudden, they don't know about the leprechaun yet at this point, right? They've not actually physically seen him. He's done some damage to other things. Like he went after Rory's girlfriend in this movie, who happened to find a gold piece, take it down to a melter, who melts it down and gives her a gold cap on her tooth. That's what she does with her gold.
Of course.
Wow. Can you get more stereotypical racist than that?
No, but this series has obviously never been, slight about who it's going to try to offend. And we talked about that last time. I mean, it was just off the chain to be, stereotypically stupid there. I mean, it was crazy, and they're just playing right more into it now. So yeah, sure. I mean, look, I think the thing is, and the thing you got to know is, there's a lot of fun poked at African American, thug culture, if you will, in this film. All right, but it's done by people who are themselves African American and are doing it to poke fun at themselves. I'm not saying that makes everything right, but you got to know it's not a bunch of white people sitting around making these jokes up. I mean, these are people joking on their own culture. So I don't have any problem with it. Actually, I found it to be kind of funny, and I like the fact that they went there. Yeah. And the other thing too, I mean, when he rips her jaw out basically to get that tooth back, I went back to my gold. I went back to part 2 where he bit that dude's finger off for the ring and stuff.
Yeah.
That was it was gory. It was good though.
It was. I agree. And so at this point, we've had a couple kills, and all of them have been people who aren't actually the thieves of the gold. They just so happen to have a piece that they've come across. Right. So it just goes to show that Leprechaun will go after every single piece of gold he's missing, which is great. Course. So now we actually get to the point where they actually have a run-in with the Leprechaun, where you were talking about, where Emily just barely escapes, and she meets up with Jamie and Rory, and they're running for their lives. And the Leprechaun is after them, and they come across the cops. And of course, the cops had just released Jamie, so they see Jamie up to no good, they think, and so they go to arrest them again. Only one problem. The little green bastard shows up and spoils the fun. Now, this was my favorite part of the film because it's so ridiculously funny. It's awesome. The cop goes to confront the Leprechaun, and the Leprechaun rips his leg off. Like clean off, rips it off. And he's standing there holding the leg, and the cop looks at him and says, "Hey, give that back." Give that back. And I'm like, really? That's what you're going to do? So they take off in the cop car, or in, another car that they had there. And the Leprechaun all of a sudden dispatches with the cops, no problem. And he needs to get after them. So he goes to the cop car, and of course he's tiny. So what does he do? He grabs the foot that he's ripped off, or the leg that he's ripped off the cop, and uses that to drive after them. I thought that was awesome.
It was great slapstick, man. I mean, that's the thing. And I love when he gets out of the car the next time. Yes, you just see the cop car come out.
They meet up with the other gang of drug dealers in a dark alley, and they're about to get it on, right? Jamie and was it Winston?
Watson, yeah.
Watson. Jamie and Watson are about to get into a big fight when the cop car pulls up, and they don't know that the Leprechaun stole the cop car. So they're just thinking, oh, crap, the cop. And the best thing, the door opens, and here comes the foot. It just comes out and then falls over, and it's the Leprechaun who just put the foot out there. Hilarious.
Oh, it was great. I love it. I love how they just start. He lays waste to everybody too. Like he dispatches with that gang so fast.
Oh, but they had this funny part where, God damn it, Watson and the Leprechaun get into like a brawl. It's all Watson, right? And he's punching the little green bastard and sending him flying across the way into a bunch of trash. And Leprechaun gets up and he just smocks him. He's like, "Is that all you got?" And they keep doing it over and over again until finally Watson is just tired from punching the dude. And that's when Leprechaun strikes. And he dispatches with them really fast. I think, what does he do? He rips the heart out of Watson, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I want to tell you what that is stolen from. And I know it is, they may never admit it, but it is directly stolen from Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Jason gets on top of a roof with this guy who's a boxer, and he just, I mean, it's like 5 minutes of him just right hook on Jason, standing there, and he's finally like, "Fine, give me one of yours." Jason punches his head clean off. I mean, it's in one shot. So I was having flashbacks to that, though. But I'm going to tell you, folks, that's not a bad thing, because I like that movie. It's bad, but I like that kind of stuff. I like that they are embracing the badness here and having fun with it. If the first 2/3 of this film are dead on with what a Leprechaun film should be. Like, it's, I'm going out on a limb saying that, I know, but I mean, it's as entertaining. Am I really
for once, right? For once, it is. No, I completely agree with you. There's good, funny slapstick humor. There's good physical humor. There's gore in this one, and like we said before, there's not as much of the Leprechaun, and you're getting involved with the characters, which is amazing. You're actually caring about the characters.
Yeah, no, like, how can I care about Leprechaun characters? But that's what's happening, right?
I know. So, it's well done. And so, but we get through this scene, and they're running for their lives. And then this is, I think, where we get to the start of the extra long third scene.
Yes, and it begins with Esmeralda and the understanding that we've got to use 4-leaf clovers to take out the Leprechaun. And that's when Rory and Jamie decide we got to lace the hollow point bullets with pieces of the 4-leaf clover.
And we need to set this up too, Jay, because earlier in the film we had Jamie buying a pack of weed, or a bag of weed from Rory, and the other drug dealers that just got dismembered by the Leprechaun were seeing this go down, and that's caused some tension between Rory and them to get them in the fight in the first place. But while smoking this weed, he finds a 4-leaf clover in the weed sack and thought it was weird, and talked to Jamie about it, saying, "You put a 4-leaf clover in my weed sack to weigh it down," or whatever. And so he was all pissed about that earlier. Well, now hey, that comes into play. So apparently every bag of weed that Jamie has 4-leaf clovers in them, because that's what we're meant to believe, which I thought was rather silly.
It is silly, but even sillier is what they're going to do with it. Have you ever seen Jaws 2? Jaws Harder? Well, there's a scene in there, not to spoil it totally for you, but where the police officer is so obsessed with killing the shark that has come back that he takes hollow point bullets and he puts like strychnine down in the little cavity of the hollow point and then seals it with wax. Candle wax, and it never pays off. He never shoots the shark with it. I think he winds up wasting the bullets doing something else. But it's this, like, they go through this painstaking scene of watching this guy do it. It's burned in my memory because I've seen the movie so many times. So when I watch Rory do that here, I'm like, wow, we're now going to rip off Jaws 2.
Yeah, that's what it's all about with these films, is they rip off a lot of things.
Well, they do, but it's also starting to tell me something. They're running out of ideas because they've already ripped off Friday the 13th 8. All right, I've seen that, and now we're ripping off. And we ripped off Jurassic Park really with that leg scene, because that's like a scene out of it with Samuel Jackson's arm gets chewed off. And so I'm like, now we're ripping off Jaws 2. I was like, now we're running out of ideas, because I was like, okay, well, for one, it's a 4-leaf clover. How far can that go? Because that pistol hole, Nate Dogg told us. I mean, it's 16 in the clip and 1 in the hole. So there's 17 bullets in that gun. So how far can that clover go?
Apparently very far when you melt it down. I don't know how you melt down a 4-leaf clover. Personally, I've never tried, so I'm not sure how it melts very well.
Wait a minute. Have you ever found a 4-leaf clover?
I got to say no.
Okay.
I've not had that luck to find a 4-leaf clover yet. Yeah, I assume when I do, I'll be rich, right?
Well, or you'll be tormented till you're dead.
Well, at least I'll have something to kill him with.
Exactly. This is true. So now you know how to do it. So, But yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at this going, well, if the answer is going to be that they shoot the leprechaun in the head a bunch with the 4-leaf clover bullets and that blows him apart, I guess I'm okay with that. But by George, that is not what happened.
No, not even close. Not even close.
Yeah, as you have said, they blast him a few times. The gun jams. There's back and forth. They get the gun after him again, but that's even ultimately not what kills him. So my question to you is, why the hell does the scene even exist? Why do we need to have this? Why can't he just shoot him and temporarily disable him? Because that's kind of all he does anyway.
What really bugged me is what they did with that whole shooting. So she shoots him with 4 rounds, right. And every time he shoots them, this like green glowing essence comes out of the leprechaun's body, almost like that's his life essence coming out of his body. But it doesn't just go away. It hovers around him, and once they stop shooting him, he's able to pull it back into his body. What the hell?
It's like those annoying parts of video games where you're beating the crap out of the boss, and then all of a sudden he just heals himself magically. And you're like, you son of a bitch, I was winning.
I know, right? And that's what it felt like. I mean, honestly, you're just like, well, if that doesn't work, what the hell you got to do? Do you have to pump him full of 100 bullets before it all goes away? I just didn't understand it. And that happens, I think, 2 times in this film. And you're just left going, what's the point? If a 4-leaf clover is supposed to kill him, why is it doing nothing? I don't
Is it because it's broken apart into pieces? I don't know. There's no answer given. It's just part of what goes on about 20 minutes too long. This movie is 90 minutes long, so it's barely, theatrical running, whatever. But it could have been 75.
Easily,
there's 10 minutes that just don't need to exist here. It's just bad.
Yeah. So we're in the final fight here. The guns jam, so they're screwed, right? So they go after each other and they try to split up. The leprechaun's going after Emily, and she somehow manages to take the gold, which, by the way, regenerates itself. We forgot to mention that. They were upset with each other for using all this gold, and they were going to try and get rid of it. And every time that they dumped it out, it regenerated itself into the box that it was being stored in, which I thought was rather silly. And so they just decide, screw it, we're going to keep it. Whatever. But anyway, so she takes the remaining gold that they have there and tosses it into a burning wood stove fire. And then the leprechaun jumps in after it and she locks him in. And you're thinking, oh, okay, well, I guess this is how it works. Because as we've established in Leprechaun 3, a flamethrower melting the gold should be good enough. Right. Apparently a burning stove at extremely high temperatures with a leprechaun and his gold in it is not enough to kill the leprechaun, because she goes after Rory, who's up there hurt from the battle, and all of a sudden there's Leprechaun again, ready to fight.
Yes, and ready to go to the death for this again. And, he has to get her in this compromising position. Here's the thing. He's got her hanging off of the damn building, Brian, and he won't finish her off. He keeps talking shit.
Well, and he's like doing the slow death, right? Like someone who steps on your fingers trying to, one by one, to get you to release. This is what he's kind of doing there. And it's like, dude, seriously? You got another guy back there who's going to get up and come after you, and you're just like talking crap to this girl who's about to die? That's awesome.
I know. It's amazing. It just keeps on and on and on. But, of course, finally, Emily throws some of that gold into the wet cement that gets him near the edge, and that's how they're finally able to throw him over the end. And what did you make of that, too? You called that in the plot summary.
Let's talk here.
Okay.
It's dark, so it's nighttime. That construction site has probably been abandoned for a few hours, I would say. There's still wet cement there, which, if I'm not mistaken, should be drying in a couple hours to a point where it's hard enough to not worry about.
Right.
So at this point, it shouldn't be sitting in that wet cement. But that's not the big problem. The big problem I have is that once he unloads the gun into Leprechaun for the 15th time, and he's going to get his essence back and finally throws him off into this wet cement, suddenly the wet cement becomes hard and traps him.
I mean, like quicksand. Like it's dragging it. And what I wanted to know was, did somehow they summon those demons to drag him back down again? I needed that. That's what I wanted.
It would have made more sense.
Yeah, I needed Esmeralda to throw some, because she's been throwing magic around and stuff like that.
I think she's dead at this point.
Yeah, she is dead. That's what I'm saying. She dies in a magic duel with him. I need her to, like, in her last move, to summon those demons to drag him into the concrete and hold him there until it dries. That I could buy.
Yeah, I would totally buy that too. And let's face it, that concrete, how deep does that go?
Yeah.
You're talking about a guy who's probably 6-7 inches thick at minimum.
Yeah, easy. Yeah.
I would say probably more close to 12 or 13, but
right.
Yeah, it didn't look like it was that deep of a hole, and yet it's enough for him to not only fall into but start sinking into.
Mm-hmm. And
I know.
Yalo, he is still trapped there, but that's where we leave him.
Yeah.
We think, unless, is the animated prologue supposed to let us know that he was able to dig himself out?
I don't know, but hey, I gotta tell you, this would explain why he's a statue.
It certainly would.
Number 3.
Maybe this is how it all ends. I don't know.
I don't know.
I give you credit for trying to write that in there, sir. So,
you gotta try to do something.
Indeed.
But yeah, there's one last thing, Jay, we need to talk about, because it's a funny little scene that we have in the middle of this that really has no real consequence to the movie. It's a scene where Rory's on a basketball court selling weed to Jamie, and all of a sudden a white businessman rolls up in his car, his nice car, comes out, and he's talking to Rory about getting more weed.
Right.
And so Rory gives him weed, and he calls him the N-word. And there was a setup before this with Jamie telling Rory that the N-word is no longer used. They call each other ninjas. What's up, my ninja?
Yes.
Is the new phrase. And okay. So the white guy comes up, buys the weed, and calls him the N-word, and everything stops. And then Rory, who was arguing the ninja thing before, says, no, man, we say ninjas now. He's like, oh. And he goes, sorry, I meant, what's up, my ninjas? And everyone's fine all of a sudden. So apparently this is true. Everyone's calling each other ninjas now.
Test that.
No, I would not either, I would say. And then
I think the capper of it, though, is the white guy running back to his car going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
He's going to die. Yeah, good stuff. But that was a funny line.
It was funny. I think they were trying to start something there, but I don't know that enough people saw this for that to take hold. And if they had, I don't know that it would. So, Brian, we're at the point of the podcast where it's time to give final thoughts, recommendations, and popcorn ratings. So what are yours for Leprechaun Back to the Hood?
You know, Jay, I dreaded doing this one for the last 6 months plus, because let's face it, we've suffered through number 2, which was almost unbearable.
Yes.
We suffered through number 3, which was okay, but still not great. We suffered through number 4, which was hideous.
Yes.
And we suffered through The Hood number 1, which was just pretty pathetic.
Yeah.
I dreaded this, but I got to tell you, Jay, I sat down to watch this and I was captivated for pretty much the whole thing until the end. I was captivated by it. I thought it was well written, a decent storyline for a Leprechaun movie, and there was some good humor and good gore in this film, enough to keep me captivated. So for me, we're going out on a high note for Leprechaun series as far as the Warwick Davis era goes. And I'm giving this the highest we've ever given a Leprechaun. I'm giving it a medium popcorn. It's worth watching, and it's good enough to watch as a standalone to all of them. If you want to see the first one because it's a cult classic, I would recommend that. And then watch this one and skip everything in the middle.
Brian, Entertainment Weekly once called this one of the 25 worst sequels ever made and said, quote, if a film could start a race riot, it would be this movie. Well, if you're sensitive to those issues, that is exactly true. But if you're watching this kind of stuff because you're looking for some kitschy, horrific type fun, let me tell you, folks, you have come to the right place. I'm joining you in that bucket of medium popcorn, and I'm going to say something even crazier. This is the best one. It's better than the first one. I had more fun with this than any of them that we have watched, and it ain't even close. I am sad to say that I own those first four. They're in my collection. I didn't own these until now. I own this one because I know I will watch it again. I can say that emphatically. The other three are coasters, but this one and the first one, I eventually will revisit them again because this movie has got a lot going on. Now, that said, the third act needs some work, and if somebody wants to do a fan edit and polish that up, I'm down for it. And no one ever will. But that needs some work. But other than that, I was there for 2/3 of this movie, and for that, I've got to reward it with such. And I'm glad we're going out on a high note with the Warwick Davis era. And I want to tell you, I don't know what this WWE thing is going to become of. I kind of hope it never happens.
Well, it's coming out in February, man. It's already set. February 28th, I believe it's going to be coming out.
So I guess we will be back.
Yes. St. Paddy's Day. Look for the final installment of our Leprechaun series. Hopefully.
Oh my, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and say now it'll be the last one ever made.
Unless Hornswoggle needs some more money.
Unless they come up with something that just nothing else has had before. We'll see. But it has been fun going through this again. So, folks, thanks for joining us for this latest episode of Film Strip. You can find more episodes at our website, continuousplaypodcast.com/movies. You can search by keyword there for the series you're looking for. All kinds of stuff besides Leprechaun films. I mean, we've got other horror films like I Know What You Did Last Summer, My Bloody Valentine. We've got the whole Alien series. We've got Superman, Fast and Furious, all kinds of films there for you to enjoy, and a lot more to come in the future. Catch up with us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, leave us a positive review on iTunes as it helps other people find the show. Till next time, for Brian, I'm Jay. Thanks for listening to Film Strip.
Thanks for listening to Film Strip. Visit our website, continuousplaypodcast.com, for more reviews and episodes. All content used or discussed in this podcast are the property of their respective owners and used under the Fair Use Act, Section 504C2, Title 17.